Good morning, everyone, and thank you as always for joining us, and thank you to the international media that are also with us. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to the Executive Vice President of Talent, Live Events, and Creative, Paul Levesque.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. This is an exciting event for NXT 25. It's hard to believe for me that we're already at that number. It's been fast in some ways and seems long in others, but it's been a heck of a ride, and I look forward to making this one even more memorable than the others. Since the very beginning, this brand has kind of set a template for in-ring action, and I think this will be no different. And it's great to be able to come here for the first time to our backyard right here in Connecticut, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, and the timing worked out right with some shifting of other events. We had to move a date and move some times, and it worked out great that we were able to get Webster Bank Arena here in Bridgeport and be able to bring an event, an NXT event here to Connecticut. So excited about that. This should be a spectacular card, as we always try to do. But the things that I'm really looking forward to, the Shayna Baszler Io Shirai match for the NXT Women's Championship. You always hear the thing that styles make fights, but two completely different styles, two of the absolute best in the world, and I can see this being one to top. And then of course Johnny Gargano defending the NXT Championship against Adam Cole. If it's anything like the first one, which is and just an incredible match. If this is anything like that, we're in for a treat. So it should be a heck of a night. But with that, I will open it up to questions to everybody online.
Hey guys, usual rule: one question and one follow-up, please.
Okay, and our first question comes from Brian Fritz with Sporting News. Please go ahead.
Hey Paul. So takeover events are always a big deal for yourself and for the brand, but how does this one feel going into it since it's not on the same weekend as a major WWE show? Does it feel any different?
It feels a little bit different. I know for me, because it's slightly less busy. It just, not that it's ever quiet around here, but just given the fact that we're not ramping up for back-to-back multiple events and trying to keep all that square, just having the one standalone event, plus it's right down the street, so it's kind of nice. So it's a little bit less for me from that standpoint. I don't think for the talent it's anything less of anything. I think that they are extremely excited. I think they're extremely excited to be here in Connecticut. And the one thing about NXT, the takeovers in general, but the brand in general, these are all talent that are young, hungry, and ready to prove something, whether it's ready to prove something to the world of where they fit kind of in the overall landscape, or whether it's reestablishing themselves, like in the case of Tyler Breeze and coming back, to NXT and looking to really stamp himself back into the mix. They're all here to prove a point. And this will be no different. I think we will show the world once again who NXT is.
Speaking of Tyler, I know that you've talked about talent moving back and forth between the brands before, but when it comes to Tyler's situation, how would you categorize him? Is he now a regular member of the NXT roster, or is he simply here for this show and for the build-up to it, or how would you state where he stands right now between the brands?
No, for me, Tyler Breeze is in NXT right now. I'm thrilled to have him here. I think he's one of the greatest talents out there, and thrilled to have him back. And look, in some way they've talked about it in the show, but the sort of Velveteen Dream being the today version of Tyler Breeze, just a different version of that in a way. That this match to me is the one that has all the markings of being the sleeper that could steal the show, because because of the styles, because of who they are, because of the characters of both guys, I think that they have an opportunity to tell a story in a very unique way. And like I said, they both want to prove something here. So this should be interesting.
And our next question comes from Mike Johnson with PWInsiders.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mike, two's not bad. Mike? All right. Well,
hey, there you guys are.
There you go.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, Paul, how are you? I'm good.
I'm good, Mike.
Apparently, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Would this be, thank you. With 25 takeovers as of this weekend, what do you think has been the biggest learning curve for yourself and for the team that you built to put these shows together? When you look back at NXT Arrival to now, what were the biggest lessons that were learned, and what do you think, looking back, were the biggest milestones in terms of developing the brand and in terms of making this a standalone brand versus just developmental?
Yeah, I think that if you said to me, what is the biggest learning curve, it's I think as you start something, how do you make it have its own identity in and of itself, not be something else, not be a version of something, not be similar, have it be sort of standalone. And even during the process, trying to adapt talent to all different, not only styles in ring, but of presentation and everything else, without coming across as more of the same, That's been the learning curve for me, and it's been also a unique experience for me to learn from so many of these men and women as they've come in through the system from all various walks of life. It's not about It's not about them all coming from the same place, having the same journey through independent wrestling or through coming in from another company. They've all had a different journey and a different story. Some have been long and been through the independents, but even for them, they've all been different. There's been talent that have mostly been focused and sat overseas. There's been talent that have been all through the U.S. Then we have a lot of talent now that really didn't have that experience. A lot of talent now coming in the door that come from something totally different, and they either grew up loving WWE and wanting to be a part of it, or for some, it was something that they learned to love. And it's one of the things that's frustrating for me sometimes, because I see talent come in that maybe it wasn't their first passion. They enjoyed it or whatever, but then when they come in and they start to do it, boy, they get the bug and they become one of the most passionate people you have, and they're so immersed. And sometimes it's hard for fans to give them that credit and that leeway for being as invested in it as anybody else is, because maybe they didn't start out that way, or because they came in from someplace else. And it's difficult to watch them struggle with that sometimes. But for me, the learning curve has been having that unique perspective from all of them. I feel like it's made me learn a lot. And guys coming in from the NFL, women coming in from various sports, whether that be soccer or gymnastics or even with MMA backgrounds, and just different perspectives of everything that then shape how you see what we do. That has been unique, and it's been, to be honest, it's been inspiring to me, and it's been very meaningful for me, and it's one of my favorite parts about this. I say it a lot, that anytime I get to go to the Performance Center and be around that varied level of athletes, all so driven and focused, it's hard not to come out of there. It's like a shot of adrenaline. You just you come out of there energized and focused and inspired. It's awe-inspiring.
All right. Quick question about the NXT Tag Titles. Obviously, ladder match this weekend. I don't think anybody's going to complain about a ladder match with the level of talent that's in there. But talk us through the decision-making process of having the Viking Raiders vacate the belts as opposed to building up to a match where they do the honors for somebody else.
Yeah, so look, it's always a mix with the story of how you want to build to something like that, knowing that they were going to get you being used on Raw and SmackDown, knowing that it had sort of already taken place. Do you want to put them into something and try to build a big storyline and try to negate the fact that, well, they're in some ways they're gone, right? Or do you vacate and try to let teams come up and fight amongst themselves to do it? There's always a mix of how you want to get there with those things. Hopefully you make the right call and you make it as entertaining as possible. Like you said, where I think I netted out was, I don't think anybody's going to complain about a ladder match with this level of talent. I'm excited to see it, and I think you could look at everybody that's in there and make an argument from Danny and Oni as the underdog team all the way through, that you could make an argument of who should take those titles, and it would be hard to argue with. So I'm excited to see it. You can't call it.
And our next question is from Jason Powell with ProWrestling.net. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Paul. There was
Hey, Jason.
a time when you told us that you wanted there to be a 6-month creative plan for NXT talent that was called up to the main roster, and it doesn't seem like that's happened in a number of cases lately. Has something changed, or is this just something that's, quite frankly, out of your control?
No, I think necessity. Would I like there to be that? There's a lot of things I'd like there to be, but it doesn't always mean that they happen. Yeah, that is the goal, is to have, a long-term plan of a build of somebody coming in. I can tell you that there are those now that we're looking at to 6 months and even some that are a year out, and what the plan is. Will that plan change and morph? Absolutely. But then there's also the need, given injuries, given shifts, given something doesn't work the way you expect it to, or, for Raw or SmackDown, and their need or the desire to say, hey, we need this, and this is a good time to do this. And then when that happens, I'm excited for them, for the talent to have that opportunity, to have that opportunity to go to Raw, to SmackDown, to grow in a different way, do something more. And however that goes, it's a part of the process of, I think no different than any other sporting team. Talent in baseball get called when the need arises, and are there plans to maybe sit somebody here for a year and then move them to here? Yes, but then the plan changes and things arise. So with us, the situation creatively, if it demands or it has the need for somebody to get called up, then that's where we go.
Also, you took some jabs at AEW at the Hall of Fame. They fired back on their show. NXT's been pretty straightforward when it comes to avoiding things like that. Could that change, though? And do you feel like back-and-forth jabs are good for business on both ends?
Look, Hall of Fame, to me, there were a moment, when Billy's there, there's kind of sort of this moment where if you don't sort of say there's an elephant in the room, everybody sort of goes, well, how come they didn't mention the elephant in the room? It was nothing more than that, and to be honest with DX, if you don't do that, then we're sort of kind of not doing what we do. And trust me, a lot of that also was not necessarily laid out and planned, and things kind of just went along. So what they are, for me, I don't really even think about it, to be honest. For me, when it comes to this takeover, I just want to put out the best product possible. I'm not focused on anybody else. I'm not thinking about anybody else's creative or what they said or didn't say or anything else. To me, I'm focused on, this Saturday at TakeOver 25. I'm focused on this Saturday, TakeOver 25, and the brand, and making everybody bigger stars coming out of it, putting on the best show we possibly can for fans, and continuing to grow the brand.
And our next question comes from Dave Meltzer with Wrestling Observer. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Paul, how are you doing?
Hey, Dave. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Y'all healed up now?
Not 100%, but enough that I can work with it. So I'm
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Good to hear.
Yeah. So with Tyler Breeze coming in, so it's kind of a theoretical question. There's a lot of names, and just two that pop into my head are like Chad Gable and Luke Harper, who I haven't seen on television in a while, and they're very talented guys. I mean, could there be an idea of bringing those type of guys to NXT to just get them reps and help, the product because they're so talented, and help with younger guys because they, Harper's got a lot of experience and Gable's got a decent amount of experience? Or do you have a feeling that you don't want to overload with guys? Because there's a part of me that goes like, you don't want to have a takeover filled with guys that were on the main roster. Maybe one is good, but maybe one too many. So what's kind of like your theory on that?
Yeah, I think it's a feel. Even just how you're talking about it, right? Like, yeah, there's somebody that's talented, and at the moment they're at creatively, they're in a holding pattern, or, not everybody's always going to be on the ascent of a giant push or whatever, so if they're in a holding pattern or whatever that is, and they have that talent, ability, and desire to do it, yeah, I'm wide open to using them, but it's a feel. What's enough? What's too much? You kind of have to feel it out so that you're not, not overexposing that, and then it becomes something that the NXT brand is not. You want to have the right blend, and I think that's just a constant feel out process.
And as far as like going forward, I mean, would you like you said that Breeze is like now full time? I mean, is there like some type of a thing of how long you would want people in NXT, or is there like now an idea that guys could be in NXT for a career? If you know what I'm saying, or maybe 5 years, whereas before it was always like, well, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then they should go to the main roster just because that's, it's time at that point.
Yeah, I think that they're all options. I think, especially as we move forward in time, NXT UK, as we continue to grow and develop other entities like that, the opportunity for talent to, I don't want this to sound like it's a negative, the opportunity for talent to not go to Raw or SmackDown and still have a very meaningful career within that system, very meaningful, very lucrative, very everything, career within that system, and be handled in a professional way with, proper everything, then that is a very real thought and possibility. And I think that as we go forward, the ability for talent to morph in and out of that, to go to Raw, go to SmackDown, come back to NXT, move here, move there, I think that just adds longevity to everyone.
And our next question comes from Jim Versalone with Miami Herald. Please go ahead.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, what was the decision? Because you've had so many takeovers in all these big cities. Just what was the thought process for the 25th event in Bridgeport?
Well, so ironically, we were originally scheduled, and we had it slated in to go to San Jose. And we were going to go there in the building that we first, it wasn't a takeover, it wasn't actually even televised. It was kind of like the first big event that we did outside of Florida, and in a big event way, where it was WrestleMania weekend, and last minute, it was like, hey, let's see what we can do with an NXT event, and it was incredible, and the whole thing was incredible. It was really this paradigm shift moment, I think, for the brand, and we were going to go back there. That was the original plan, the original thought. It was a standalone, and we were going there, and that shifted. The pay-per-view and that touring route shifted. The Super Showdown event shifted. Like, so everything kind of moved, and I've said it before on here, like those are dominoes, right? So one falls, they all kind of topple over. So it became it just became impossible for us to do the San Jose event, and we very quickly started to work to find another venue that was right and meaningful. And I've been trying to do something in Connecticut for a long period of time with the brand because it is our home, and I get asked about it all the time. Todd, you guys are in Connecticut. Why don't you do a takeover or an NXT event in Connecticut? And it was one of the buildings that came up. And on a short notice, it was one of the buildings that came up as an offer, and it was a great opportunity, and the timing was right, so we took it. It was as simple as that. But I'm excited to be there, and excited to put on an event in Connecticut, and they're going to get something spectacular, for sure.
And then on your pre-show panel, will there be any NXT superstars, past or present, and or WWE legends involved in the pre-show panel?
We're still working through that. So, we have a few different few different things in the bucket, but you'll have to wait and see.
And our next question comes from Nick Hoffman with Wrestling Inc. Please go ahead.
Hi, Paul.
Hey, Nick.
Thanks so much for taking the time today. Good to
Sure.
see you, or good to talk to you.
Yeah.
There's a couple titles right now on Raw and SmackDown that have been alluded to that they could be defended in NXT as well. I was just wondering if you think there's a chance we see the 24/7 championship or the women's tag titles in NXT anytime soon.
It's definitely a possibility on both. The ability is there on both. It was when Sasha and Bayley were the first had the tag team championships. They came down there one time and just were in the ring and talked about it. But it's definitely something I would love to have. It really just comes down to scheduling. Right now, everybody's pretty busy, so trying to match the schedules up and get everybody where they need to be sometimes is the biggest problem. But who knows? You could see any of them at any time.
Cool. And then my last question here, I guess I'll go with, are there any updates regarding how NXT could be used by Fox when you guys make the big leap here in October?
I mean, we're looking at everything. Again, there's a lot of interest in NXT as a brand. It's also very valuable to us on the network. So that's being vetted through here on every level to see what the best outcome of all of that is. So we'll get there. It's everybody's going to have to wait and see, as will I.
And our next question comes from Sean Ross Sapp with Fightful. Please go ahead.
Hey, Paul. Thank you a lot.
Hey, Sean.
We've seen people like Nikki Cross with her vlogs and Stokely Hathaway with his CD player saga out there creating their own kinds of content. How familiar are you and management with some of this stuff, and your thoughts on these talents stepping out and doing that?
I think it's great. I think that anytime talent can step out there and help to build their brand, build themselves, their characters, the things that they're doing. The one thing about social media and everything is clearly a very double-edged sword, so you have to be careful with what you put out there and the things that you do, but it's a great opportunity for all of them. It's something that we're encouraging. It's something that we are trying to actually work with them at the Performance Center on how to become sort of their own content creator, their own brand ambassador. It's easy to do now, and technology-wise, it's to be able to get out there and do your own stuff. So it's exciting time for them. As far as our ability to see all of it, obviously we have a large team that is in charge of that, and we have 1 billion social media followers. We have a lot of talent with big accounts. It's hard for me personally to keep track, honestly, of everything that everybody does and everything in between. So, but we have a large team here that deals with that and with social media, and they're all over it. So it's an exciting time for talent to be able to not only, I would use it as the example of the even just with the 24/7 title of Drake Maverick making the wanted posters. Literally, that was like he just did something funny on his own and had these wanted posters and started sticking them up backstage, and it was funny, and like we're all like, this is great, and they we put it into the show and made it a part of that. Because of his creativity on that side. So it's an exciting time for talent to be able to help themselves to a better position, a better place, and build their own brands.
Also, you guys have a lot Go ahead. Sorry. You all have a lot of
go ahead.
UFC veterans on the NXT roster in particular, including a guy like Matt Riddle, who left the UFC on a winning streak. It's not really a secret that the UFC comes calling for people like that sometimes, even when they had maybe a frayed relationship towards the end. How do you look at handling that? If Matt Riddle got like a giant money offer to fight in the UFC and represent the NXT brand or WWE, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, but we'd obviously talk to Matt about it and see what the opportunity was, and is it something that we would like to do? Is it something that he would like to do? We'd have that conversation. There's no set in stone template on how you deal with any of this stuff. We have talent within the system all the time that get offers to do a lot of things, even internationally. We have talent from India that is. It's hard to understand here, but he's like a movie and television star in India, but his dream is to be a WWE superstar, and he's in NXT now, but we every now and then he gets a huge gig comes up, and he goes home for a little bit and stars in a movie or does whatever part he's doing or a television show, and then continues to stay in shape, do everything he can do while he's there, and then comes back and gets back into his training. And if the opportunity is there and it's the right thing and it's something they want to do, we talk to them about it, and we move from there. So, you bring up Matt Riddle. I mean, just one of my favorite talents out there right now. Just brings an intensity and a dynamic that very few people bring to the ring. I think the question would be if an offer came, is it something that he would even be interested in doing? Because I think he's having the time of his life, doing what he's doing. And I don't know that and he might, but I don't know that he would want to take a moment out to train differently and do something different. But he loves what he does, and it shows for sure because he's one of the best in the world.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll do two more outlets, and then we'll wrap.
Okay, and we have Alex McCarthy with TalkSport.
Hey, Alex.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for talking to us today, bud. It just seems that with the WWE at the moment, you have a ton of writers and producers on the main roster. I'm just curious on how you put together these takeover shows. Like, is it a case of you, Shawn Michaels, and a few others kind of come together and put things together with a huge show like Takeover 25? Is it a case of less is more in that department sometimes?
Well, a little bit, obviously different brand feel, everything else. But the truth is, when you talk about the writers, producers, all the stuff, a lot of that comes down to, for Raw or for SmackDown being a 3-hour, 2-hour show versus what NXT is. When you get into the takeovers, the simplicity, I don't want to undersell it, but the simplicity of what we do is them in the ring, letting them do what they do at this point. This is the culmination. This is the epic fight scene in the movie, right? But the writing and the build of the characters and everything else that goes into making that epic fight scene mean something is what takes place prior to that, and those are the 1-hour shows. So it's a bit different. There's a team, and there's a team that, I'm part of that. Sean is a part of that. There's various people as a part of that team, and we all contribute together and work with talent and hopefully put out the best product we can.
And I feel like I have to ask you about Nxt UK Takeover. I know we spoke briefly for WrestleMania, and you said there would be an announcement incoming. We've got you guys downloading in a couple of weeks, which I'll be there for. Can we expect something close to that, or what's the kind of timetable we're looking at roughly?
Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to be able to put out something soon on that. We're just trying to finalize some things. As I said, even for this in the U.S., things shift and change, and when one piece moves, the dominoes fall, and it kind of changes things. So as the dominoes fell, it shifted down the line. But hopefully we'll have an announcement here soon.
And our last question is from Connor Casey with comicbook.com. Please go ahead.
Hey, Connor.
Hey, Paul. Time. Appreciate it. You mentioned earlier about how the San Jose event fell through because of scheduling. Has there been any conversation about possibly bringing a different takeover standalone event to that venue in the future?
Oh yeah, it's that we've tried to put out there that it's not something that we just said, oh well, it didn't work out, too bad for you guys, and we're going to try to find the right place and the right time to do something again there. That's a great venue, and I love it, and it's meaningful to us, and so we'll definitely look to doing something there. As far as the time frame on that, at this point I couldn't even begin to guess on it, but it's definitely on the radar.
Awesome. And last thing, are there any challenges with promoting and running a standalone event like this where you don't have the main roster crew getting ready for a show the next day or so?
Well, I mean, it's certainly in an area where you have a couple of epic events coming in and a Raw and SmackDown pay-per-view coming in that is getting massive media and massive traffic and massive everything else. That level of attention certainly adds to us and certainly adds to how we can do business. But it's the brand, I believe, NXT over the course of, this is 25, so over the course of these 25 shows has built a reputation, has built brand equity and among itself of what we are and what we will deliver and an expectation. And I believe that fans are aware of that and are excited to come to that. So to me, while yes, there are challenges there because it's, you're not drafting off of something else. It's definitely doable, and the excitement level is there. And this Saturday night at Webster Bank Arena, it'll be no different. Bridgeport will light up. We will put on a spectacular show, and we'll draw fans from all over the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and everywhere in between. So, although I don't believe I left any room for an in-between there. I think I said most of the states in that region. But anyway, I think it stands, the brand is enough to stand on its own. And I guess that really should be the statement, because we're going to do that exactly this weekend. We're going to take over, but we're standing on our own to do it.